Okay. Hi, everyone. I believe most of you have connected to the audio now, so we'll begin our presentation tonight. My name is David Riley. I work for a company called SGL Planning and Design, and we are working on the official plan update for the City of Welland. We're happy to be here tonight, and I'd just like to introduce a few others from that you see here tonight. So we've got also Paul Lowe's, also from SGL. This is the overall kind of project director on the file. And then from the city, we've got Rochelle Larocque and Nicholas Aiello. I can never say your name properly, Nick, but we've got we've got representatives from the consulting team and the city here tonight. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording this presentation and it will be posted on the city's website. So this is so that everyone can, go back and review what we've discussed, see the presentation, and hear what people had to say. So just wanted to put that out there. And really tonight we're here to talk about this Welland official plan, and we're kicking it off with this visioning workshop. And the purpose of tonight's workshop is really to introduce the overall project to everyone that's participating tonight, to discuss really what is an official plan and why is the city undertaking an update to the official plan, to provide a brief overview of what we've already done, because we have started doing some background work on this project. Obviously, to hear some preliminary feedback on what you all have to say tonight, and we will be having some questions and answers, and it'll be kind of a fun presentation. And really what we'll be getting at is getting feedback from all of you on helping us establish a vision for the official plan. And that's really kind of the overall goal tonight. And part of that is talking about some of the great places that exist in Welland today, what you like about those places, and also identifying opportunities on how to improve these places. And also just generally, what are the priorities for all of you in living in Welland, working in Welland, visiting Welland, and the priorities for the future. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And what we have here is a presentation that I'll run through. And we're going to do, because we unfortunately can't meet in person, we thought it would be fun to make this presentation a little bit more interactive. And hopefully many of you will be able to participate. If you're not able to participate on the computer, don't worry, there's lots of other opportunities, and we'll tell you how to submit your feedback and ideas on this process. So if you're not able to participate during the presentation, we have thought of you, and we will take care of that. But essentially what we're going to be doing, and before I start sharing the screen, I just wanted to go to this message. And we're going to be using a tool during the presentation called Mentimeter. And Mentimeter is a way to get, we'll ask you quick questions during this presentation, and we're going to get some live results right away on the screen, and it's going to be interesting. So if all of you would open in a separate window a web browser, so it could be Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, whatever you have, and go to this website, www.menti.com, and you can enter in the code for that you see here, 14866392. And essentially that's going to be how you participate. And I've just shared this information in the chat in case you wanted to copy and paste it. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation shortly, but I also wanted to note that you can also participate online by going to the city's website. yourchannel.welland.ca and then /City of Welland official plan update. I'm just going to show you what this website looks like here.
David, maybe just go back, just give people a couple minutes, make sure they got into that Menti.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's a lot to make sure they get into, although it's in the chat. Just give them a minute to make sure they've entered it.
And then just while we're on this page as well, you can also email any comments that you have on the official plan update to Nick. And his email is here, nicholas.aiello@welland.ca. And as I mentioned, I did put this information in the chat. And I just wanted to show you on the city's website, you can go down to survey and take the survey. It'll ask you many of the same questions that you'll hear tonight. We've also added a little map tool where you can actually go and identify your favorite places in Welland and leave comments about why you like those places. So that will be a good thing for all of you to do afterwards. And so now I will share my presentation and we'll get going. So also as part of our consulting team, and they're not here tonight, but they have already been working on it, and you will see them at future events. But we have two other companies that are part of the consulting team, Urban Metrics, who are looking at the economic factors that in Welland and how to update the official plan to incorporate and to make sure that we're thinking about the economy of the city. And also we have Savanta under the umbrella company GEI, and they'll be working on updating the natural heritage, so the environmental policies of the official plan, and also urban forestry policies. So we'll definitely be talking about that as well. And so here we are again at this slide in case you wanted to take some last minute notes. But again, we've got the menti.com link, how to enter in your code, the link to the online survey, and emailing your comments to Nick. And again, this is all listed on the city's website. But generally, I just wanted to kind of touch on where we are in the project and kind of what the steps are. And so the project is being done in 4 phases. And right now, we're in between phases 1 and 2. So phase 1 is really the background review phase, and phase 2 is where we come up with draft policy recommendations. Then we move on to phase 3, where we actually implement the official plan update and the policies. And then we move on to the final official plan creation and then approval. And throughout all of these phases, there will be many opportunities for more involvement. And many of you, I'm sure, will see again, particularly as we get into kind of the more of the subject matter of the project. So let's start with the basics. What is an official plan? So an official plan really sets out the long-term vision and objectives and goals for a municipality. It includes policies to guide and manage growth and development. So how is the city going to grow? Policies to protect, enhance, and preserve natural environmental features. Policies to ensure the adequate provision of infrastructure, which is roads, sewers, water, stormwater management facilities. Also policies looking at, making sure we have appropriate amount of community facilities. So, recreation centers, parks, and open spaces. And also policies to protect our cultural heritage resources. So heritage buildings, or even some landscapes in the town that might have some historical importance. And so why do we need to update an official plan? So there is a need to update periodically an official plan to ensure that it reflects current provincial and regional policy. Currently, the region, the Niagara region, is updating their official plan to think about growth over the next 30 years. So that brings us to the year 2051. And that comes from provincial policy, particularly the growth plan, which says that all upper tier municipalities such as Niagara and single tier, so the city of Hamilton, city of Toronto, things like that, need to update their official plans to think about growth to 2051. And from there, all of the local municipalities underneath need to conform to provincial policy and regional policy. So it's a great time right now to update the Welland official plan to guide growth and to manage change for the next 30 years on a more local scale. So in tandem with the region's update, but looking at, okay, what does this mean for Welland in particular? So I would like to start with a little bit of an icebreaker question. And if you go to the web page that hopefully you've been able to open, it should have changed and asked you a question. How familiar are you with the city's existing official plan? And you can go ahead and select one of the options. There's very familiar, somewhat familiar, or not at all. And you can see here on the screen, many of you are already participating, so that's great. So far, we've got not familiar winning at 4 or 5 now and 3. So not seeing anyone that's very familiar with the official plan. So I'm guessing we don't have any planners in the crowd, in the public joining us tonight. But I'll just give this a few more seconds. So this is why exactly we have these sessions. It's really just to, gauge and introduce the topics that are covered in the official plan and really to get people interested. And this is really a document that's important in guiding change within Welland, and we're looking at the next 30 years. So happy that many of you are somewhat familiar, but for those of you that are not familiar, that's okay. It's great that you're here tonight. So I will go on to the next topic. So currently the Welland official plan, it contains goals and objectives to guide growth and development in a direction that's sustainable, responsible, and efficient. And these are really important as they set out the tone and flavor of the official plan. And I'm going to read out some statements. And if you happen to have a pen and paper with you or near you, it might be a good idea to write down some of the key words that speak to you, where you think, yes, this is what we need to be thinking about when we're talking about change and the future of our community. And you'll understand later why I asked you to write down some words. Or and if you don't have a pen and paper, maybe just remember them or write them down on your phone or whatever. So this is right from the existing official plan. So it says that Welland is a leadership community where the city leads by example and strengthens the ties of leadership in sustainability, environment, society, and culture. Welland is a complete community, meeting all the needs for daily living through convenient access to an appropriate mix of jobs, services, a full range of housing, and community infrastructure through affordable housing, schools, recreation, and open space. And then it continues. Welland is an economic gateway where opportunities for economic development are leveraged by proximity and geography. So an example of that would be your geographic location in the center of Niagara, but also in close proximity to the international border. Welland is a sustainable city through implementing technologies, policies, guidelines, and practices that support sustainability amongst citizens, businesses, agencies, and governments. Welland is a safe, healthy, and accessible city by providing and promoting barrier-free design. So this is accessible design, in public places, health and wellness in the community, encouraging sport and public recreation, and safety in the neighborhoods. And then the last one is, Welland is a proud and attractive city, supporting heritage and cultural events, strengthening art, and I think it cut off there. It did cut off there, but it does continue that thought. But this is the words that I want you to think about. And I'm going to ask you a question about what these statements right now and their reflection of what Welland is and how that compares to how you think of Welland. And so of these goals and objectives that I've just read, how would you rank these? Would you say these are excellent? This is Welland, or would you say no, they're good? I could think of a couple more words that should be described. they're fair, they need some work, or they really need some work, and that would be the last category there. And I seen you guys participating here, so lots of kind of fair, good opinions here, which tells me that there are there's some work to do to these, and we need to consider some additional objectives, or even potentially changing some of them. And we'll have an opportunity shortly for you to enter in some of the key words that you think should be used in some of these goals and objectives, but also developing a vision. And so we're looking to develop a vision statement now in the official plan. And it's something that's not there now, but certainly there's a lot of those foundational elements in terms of goals and objectives that do exist. A vision statement would really help to guide the direction of policy in the official plan, and really should represent the fundamental values of Welland, and the people who live in Welland, and the people who go to school in Welland, and people who work in Welland. And so this is where all of you come in now to the next question. And I think some of you are already typing into the chat box, which is great. But what are the key words that should be included into the city's vision statement? And so it could be the words that we've already discussed, accessible, healthy, attractive, natural environment, all of those words. But I encourage you to think also of words that aren't currently covered in any of the goals and objectives, and seeing if there's any. Okay, so here we go. Some words are coming up. Well, so we've got protection, wetlands, green belt. So we're thinking green, waterfront. That's a great one. You guys are blessed to have the recreational waterway, the Welland River, and also the canal, I think, is a major. Sustainable, human scaled. Lots of words coming up here. Anti-corruption, prosperity for all. Urban forest, that's a good one. Okay, inclusive is getting a little bit bigger. So a few of you have written inclusive. This is good. Constant, livable, welcoming, increased density. We'll be talking about that shortly. Affordable. This is something that we also need to think of, particularly with rising house prices. So I'm seeing lots. Citizen focus, more housing types. So that speaks to not just singles and low rise, maybe some more apartments, or even more townhouse built form, or different forms of medium density residential. Green, balanced, farmlands. Welland is not just the urban area. Welland is also has a large agricultural area to think about. So, okay, so this is great. Non-vehicle dominant. That's very interesting too. Making use of transit and maybe active transportation. We'll talk about that. So all of these words you can continue contributing through the survey. I think this is a fun one for everyone, but also, emailing, and we will have a record of all these words as we move forward. So now I'll continue just discussing the background review and what we've done so far. And so we focused on kind of these 4 theme areas. So growth management, complete communities, economy, and the environment and forestry. And I would like to kind of go into a little bit about each of these right now. So what does it mean when we say growth management? So the city's official plan currently has policies that address growth management, and it's really the collective set of policies, goals, and objectives that really deal with, okay, how is Welland going to accommodate future population and job growth? Where is that going to happen? So where are those employment areas? Where are those areas that are going to accommodate those densities? And what should that growth look like? Also, the Region of Niagara official plan establishes for each local municipality population and job forecasts. So right now they have draft forecasts to the year 2051. We'll go over those on the next slide. in terms of population and jobs in Welland. Minimum targets for those greenfield areas. So if you think about, more into Northwest Welland Secondary Plan, if you guys are familiar with up by Quaker Road, that area is going to redevelop. That's a greenfield area. And minimum intensification targets. So that's the already built up area and how the proportion of new units that needs to occur within that area. So the city's official plan has to conform to all of these policies in the region's official plan. And it already addresses many of these matters, but it all needs to be updated because we're moving the end goal to 2051 now. Right now, the policies go to the year 2031. We're only 10 years away from there. So we need to think further out than that. And so just to give everyone a little bit of context, the draft population and job numbers for Welland to 2051 is 83,000 people, 37,540 units is what it translates to. And that's a change from now to 2051 of 26,790 additional people. And that's works out to almost 14,000 additional dwelling units. And in jobs, moving to 28,790 jobs. And that's a growth of almost 11,000 jobs. And also an intensification target of 75%. So this means that of all of these new units, 75% of them are going to be located within those existing built up areas. So looking at infill developments, looking at maybe higher density things, types of development in the downtown maybe. So let's talk a little bit about the 75%. And when I say the built up area, that's the gray area that you see on this map. So you've got 75% of all units between now and 2051 have to go in that area. And much of the growth is going to occur within what the region is calling the Downtown Welland Regional Growth Center. And they have a draft target of 125 people and jobs per hectare within downtown Welland. So, the section along East Main, Division Street on the east side of the canal there, or the recreational waterway. And currently, right now, the official plan does direct intensification to downtown, also brownfield sites and lands along the recreational waterway. But really all of these, with the anticipated growth coming to downtown, we really need to start thinking about what is downtown going to look like to accommodate all of these units. And so that brings us to another question where we thought we'd get some feedback, and you can pick more than one option here. But what does growth in the downtown Welland look like to you? Is it all high density? Is it a mix of high rise, mid rise, townhouses? Is it really just preserving the heritage character of the downtown, and we don't want to see those mid rise and high rise? Is it townhouses? Okay, so we're seeing a lot of entries coming in. So, heritage character, of course, really important to maintain that. And how do we, knowing that downtown is going to change, how is that preserved and reflected in the character of new development going forward? Okay, so we're seeing some medium density, maybe some townhouses. Only one vote so far for low density. Of course, it is already low density, so it sounds like people are recognizing that we do need some change, and looks like more of a mid-rise than a high-rise preference, but there is still some comments for high-rise. And it's not to say that it's one of these or two of these. It could be all of these. We just all have to think about what that looks like and develop policies that are, make sense for Welland and reflect, the values of the people of Welland, and really at the same time, though, account for the need to provide for additional housing within Welland, and thinking about what that looks like and thinking about affordability. So, and I'm seeing a comment here, which is exactly the type of thing that would be addressed in the official plan where, you know, if you do have high density in the downtown, you need to have a good step back to, you know, between the tower and the sidewalk, but also, you know, you got to think about transition in height to existing residential areas maybe. So all important things, and heritage character seems to be a big, big important to people here. So the next topic that we looked at was complete communities. So what do we mean when we say complete community? And so really this term refers to a concept that aims to design and develop places that serve the daily needs of residents by providing access to an array of jobs, investment in education opportunities, community services and amenities, parks, recreational facilities, retail stores, housing options, and active and public transportation. So the city's official plan addresses the concept of complete communities today. However, we see that there are some opportunities for improvement. And one of those opportunities is a look at a concept that we call placemaking. And this is kind of the next topic I want to explore with you all. And some of you may be familiar with the term, but really what placemaking is, it's a multifaceted approach to planning, design, and the management of public spaces. And Welland's got some great public spaces. There are key elements that contribute to a place being a good place and a successful place. And I think you've all probably experienced many of these elements. And what we're trying to do is kind of think about, okay, what makes these places great? Let's put that down in writing and think about what it is. So it's really thinking about the function of a place, the connectivity of a place, the perception and image of a place, and how you interact within that place. So in terms of function, it's really looking at a mix of uses that attract a lot of people. In terms of connectivity is how do we get to this place? Is, you know, you know, we need more than being able to just to drive there, but how is it connected to, you know, the public realm and transit and trails? Perception and image is really that feeling of sense of place. You know, people like to go to places that are attractive and maybe, you know, have nice landscaping or nice public art. And also interaction. You know, people like to go to places, and of course, we're all hopefully getting back to this, you know, as we move through this pandemic. But I think we're finding ways to, you know, have safe interactions, you know, and we're able to kind of get back to that. So that, you know, think about a farmer's market and all that interaction that happens there. We also need to look at active transportation and transit. And I know that this, you know, there's certainly a lot of great trails in Welland. You know, thinking about one of the trails that that I used to go on a lot because my parents used to live in Welland is the Merritt Island Trail. I used to love going there, and of course, you're along the recreational waterway. I think it's great. The city is currently working on developing a transportation master plan, and this is going to address transportation and transit. So we want to make sure that the official plan includes reference to this document, and also, you know, including a map or a schedule that actually maps out the trails and the transit routes and all the connections that are important to everyone. So we really need to focus on connectivity across the city between land uses to ensure that you also have, you know, ways to get to the job that you work at. So from your house, how are you getting there? You can drive there, you can take transit there, you can ride a bike. So thinking about all that. And then also on the same topic of complete communities, we think about parks, open spaces, and community facilities. So the official plan does set out policies to ensure that we do have parks, we do have open spaces, and we do have enough, you know, community facilities to serve the population. But we were thinking that an opportunity might be to introduce the idea of community hubs and to encourage really the co-location of some of these important community facilities that we all use. So it could be a combination of some health services, gyms, community centers, libraries, parks, gathering venues, kind of in one place. And that would be known as a community hub. And, you know, thinking about opportunities to encourage that sort of thing in Welland. And so let's talk about your favorite places in Welland right now. So thinking about all the concepts we talked about, we know that there's some great places in Welland today. So what are some of these places? So I'm curious to see what you all say here. And I'm seeing some more comments, and you know, noting that access to amenities for all, not just those that live you know, alongside certain areas. Welland should be prioritizing active forms of transportation. Oh, here we go. So we've got some entries coming in. So we've got Merritt Island, of course. Love Merritt Island. Flatwater Center, Seaway Mall, of course. Chippewa Park, Trail along the Welland Canal, Flatwater Center, Welland Market. The downtown in itself is a place. Canals, parks, flower beds, wide open spaces. Lots of ideas coming in here. There's, I know growing up for me, there was a park that I used to really like. I can't even remember the name of it. I think it was called Memorial Park, but it was beside the Welland Canal. And there was an outdoor pool there with a diving board, a high diving board. But it was a place that I used to like going to near my family's house. Here we go. Cook's Mill, Canal Trails, Merritt Island, Green Spaces, Farm Fields, Merritt Park, Chippewa Park, the Flatwater Center, that's seeing that a lot, Seaway Mall, Niagara Street, the YMCA. It seems like water is, you know, the canal is, or the waterway. Oh, here we go. It could be improved with an accessible ladder. Pride homeowners have in their property, lawn, flowers, etc. Yes, that's for sure. Yeah, definitely see historic sections of Welland with homes and lovely landscape, flower beds and little parkettes. See, there's lots of little places that everyone is bringing up. Cook's Mills again. So it's, yeah, great places, and I encourage you to all to continue thinking about these places and thinking about how we can better connect these places, how we can improve these places, what makes them great, what can we take from that place that's so good to apply it somewhere else. So good, definitely good train of thought here. And that is exactly the next question. So what makes these places great? And this is another word cloud. So we're going to see lots of words coming in, but you know, landscaping could be an example, or access or accessibility, public art, any ideas that you all want to share. Water, friends, so that idea of gathering, family, community, aesthetically pleasing. Yep. Free or low cost, absolutely. Where we came from, walkable, peaceful. Yeah, safe, definitely. And safety is such an important part of design. Walkable, it's coming up big. History. Yeah, we do have a lot of history in Welland, certainly. Walkable is becoming bigger. Lots of people typing in walkable, so that seems to be good. Clean, mature trees. That's like another topic we'll be touching on shortly. So yeah, great inclusive again. I'm loving all these. And yeah, no cars. Okay. Maybe it's just an area where you can think about that. Okay, so I'll move on. I know it's fun to watch. We'll move on to the next few topics, and we do have, you know, a couple more opportunities to participate. And so we're also looking at the economy, as I mentioned, and you know, Urban Metrics has looked at Welland's existing economic profile um, and what the official plan says. And so the official plan does contain policies to promote a healthy economy and to ensure the adequate provision of employment lands, making sure that we can accommodate those new jobs, particularly if we're adding, 10, 11,000 jobs over the next 30 years. Where are those going to go? So there's opportunities to focus on growth in the manufacturing center, as well as educational and healthcare sectors in and around the downtown. And I believe that the city has a strategy document with respect to that. So certainly that's something that we'll be looking at in the official plan update. And then on the idea of environment and forestry, the Welland official plan does contain environmental policies, but they do need to be updated to conform to regional and provincial policy. This could include updating definitions that have changed in terms of, endangered species habitat, for example. We'll also be looking at forestry policies. So the official plan currently addresses woodlands, so woodlands over a certain size, but there's really no policies on canopy cover targets or invasive species. And these are, I saw some people mentioned mature trees as one of those things that makes these places great, or things that we can improve about a place. And so one of the ways to do that is to include some policies to address canopy cover and targets. So this would be when you're walking down the street, those existing trees, how do we make sure that those stay there and they don't kind of die off with new development? So there are opportunities for new policies to address these matters in line with provincial and regional policies. And regional policies are getting into a little bit of this too. So we do have something to look at. And so overall, really, what we've talked about and what you'll hear as we move on with this project is that the official plan really touches on these theme areas that we've discussed: growth management, complete communities, infrastructure, natural environment, and forestry. And it's really setting out the community's priorities. So, this is really, we want to provide for affordable housing. We want to have parks. We want to protect our trees and our natural areas. But it's really important to understand what the priorities are. And so this next one is, of the priorities listed here, and there's more than just these priorities. This is just a good cross section of 12 things. And you have the opportunity to rank them all now on your page. And it doesn't mean that if no one ranks agriculture, that doesn't mean that we're not going to look at agriculture. It's just an idea to gauge everyone's, what's really at the forefront of your mind in terms of what you think is important and what we should address in the official plan, what an official plan should address. You can rank all of them, or you could rank some of them. So if you think, oh, I've ranked 5, I don't care to do this anymore, you can press submit and it'll go. But you can go and rank all of them. So feel free to press submit whenever, but I'll just keep talking while people are doing that and the list updates. Okay, so here we go. So it looks like we've got someone submitted, okay, community facilities is taken over, followed by intensification, active transit, affordable housing, jobs, moving down parks and open spaces, culture and heritage, aging in place, tree canopy, natural environment, public transit, agriculture. Okay, yeah, so, there's all of these things are certainly important, and it's good that people are thinking about intensification and affordable housing, because we're certainly going to be focusing on that. Culture and heritage, we did hear that heritage is an important part of your downtown, so we'll need to think about that. It being a regional growth center that will accommodate intensification, but we do need to think about heritage. Parks and open spaces, yeah. So everyone is all of these topic areas are getting some votes, and it's just good for us to just see, this is where everyone's going. Parks and open spaces, I'm not surprised that's, coming out front here in community facilities. Certainly Welland has some great community facilities and parks and open spaces. And your Flatwater Center, it's amazing that you guys are very lucky to have that in the community. But yeah, no, this is great. And then so building on this, I thought we would do another just kind of a fun one to end things off. But if you were to complete the sentence, it is the year 2051 and Welland is a great place because. So what do we need to put into the official plan? What do we need to think about in the official plan to get to 2051? And that's really what we're doing here. We're looking at ways to update the official plan and thinking about the future. So yeah, prioritized affordability. Definitely affordable. Okay, we've got affordable leading the pack here. Affordable housing, affordable, walkable, live and work. Yep. Yeah. Woodlands protected. Safe, environmental protection. It's inclusive. We've seen that word a lot. So that's good. Preserved our heritage, preservation, intensification. It's coming out. So yes, lots of good thoughts here. Environment, again, livable community. Yeah, green. Yeah, people first, cars last. That goes hand in hand with walkable. And yeah, so this is great, and this is exactly the feedback that we want, and it'll help us develop that vision going forward for Welland and really kind of focus on what we need to think about as we start developing the policies and thinking about policy direction in Welland for the future. But yeah, oh, canal is not developed. Okay, that's a good one. Canal is not developed. So thinking about what ways to make sure that there's some green space along the canal. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. And again, you can continue doing this in the survey, but this is great to get everyone's feedback, and this does save. But I just wanted to, before we close off the presentation and maybe offer people to type in a few questions into the chat function, I just wanted to provide an overview of where we're heading with this. So as I mentioned, the online engagement is now live. You can go on the city's website and participate in the survey. You'll also see there any information on upcoming events or when we release a report, for example, that'll be listed there. This presentation is actually being, as I mentioned at the beginning, is being recorded and will be posted on that website as well. So here we are today at the Public Visioning Workshop. We will be having public and stakeholder consultations between October and December, so look out for those. We'll be preparing a first draft official plan before Christmas, as well as draft forestry guidelines. And then in the new year, we'll be looking at revisions to those based on comments received, more public and stakeholder consultation towards the end of the winter there. And then we'll be preparing the final official plan and forestry guidelines up to approximately April. And the goal is to have the official plan adopted by the city, and of course the region is the approval authority, but by June 2022, so next June. So we have a lot of work to do between now and then, and hopefully a lot more opportunities for more consultation. And I just saw someone ask, will we be having more public consultations? Yes, we definitely will. And as until provincial guidelines allow in-person ones, we'll have to keep doing virtual ones, but I hope that we provided an opportunity today to show that we can make it a little bit more interactive by having these, these questions, these live questions, but also just encouraging further feedback as we go along. Email Nick, go participate in the survey. We will have more open houses such as this, particularly when we release the policies and the policy directions. So those will be a little bit more focused. We'll have some more questions, and we'll have more opportunities there. So I just wanted to, we have a few minutes left, and there's certainly been lots of comments written in the chat boxes. And if anyone had a specific question, please feel free to enter it into the chat box, and we can, or a comment, doesn't have to be a question. If you don't have the ability to do that right now, please email Nick or go on the city's website and fill in the survey, and your feedback will be recorded that way. So yeah, let me go through some of these questions here. I'm seeing one, would like to see less focus on manufacturing, more on knowledge worker and innovation hubs, people moving to work from home, factory jobs, not sustainable. So yeah, certainly, historically Welland, lots of manufacturing and factory jobs. And there is a change happening for sure, and that's something that we'll need to think about in terms of what do these new jobs look like, and what type of land do we need, and what type of official plans, land use permissions do we need to attract those different types of jobs, not just manufacturing jobs. My biggest concerns about intensification is the parking issues. Will you be addressing this in the plan? Well, that's a good question. So, I mean, certainly parking is always an important consideration in development. And when you have particularly medium and high density developments, places where you have some transit service, but it might not be completely transit accessible, you're going to have parking. And so it's kind of striking that balance between providing for parking, but also trying to promote the use of transit. And so an official plan can look at, it won't set out specific parking rates. That's something that is addressed in the zoning bylaw. And so that's something that will kind of flow out of any policies that we recommend for the official plan, but it's certainly, there's ways that you can encourage the reduction of the use of vehicles through policy. I don't know if anyone on the panel wanted to add to that, or saw another question they wanted to speak to.
David, there's been a lot of discussion on age-friendly, youth-friendly, and things for the youth to do, and not a lot to do in the winter time. So maybe you can talk about that in terms of placemaking. Yeah,
no, that's a great question, and I saw some of those comments. So we want to make sure when we're creating places or planning places that you're thinking about all ages, but also all year round. Not just a place being heavily used in the summer. It might not be used for the same purpose, but it might be used for a different purpose in the winter. And making sure that it's accessible. It has, in terms of maybe ramps or other considerations for the aging population. But also on the topic of aging, there's also the idea of promoting development that is that can evolve over time. So it could be a policy that promotes secondary suites or secondary residential units within dwellings, but that have certain accessibility considerations, or promoting a type of built form or housing type within a neighborhood that might be more suitable to an older population or people that are looking to downsize, but they don't want to leave their neighborhood. So they do want another option, not just a single detached dwelling. So all of these things can be addressed in terms of that aging in place.
David, there was a question on, elaborate on the 11,000 jobs, which would be coming from the regional numbers, specifically manufacturing. I think that's the increase in jobs. Maybe we can talk about that and how it's a broad spectrum of jobs.
Yeah. So the 11,000 is the projected number with the draft projected number of additional jobs between today and 2051. And as Paul mentioned, it wouldn't just be manufacturing, and it's not limited to a specific type of job. It certainly is a broad spectrum of jobs in the in all sectors. So even retail, manufacturing, office, all sorts of things. And I think that the official plan will really have to focus on ensuring that there's provision and land use permissions to attract that wide variety of jobs.
Helen just followed up of questioning whether full-time. Yeah, there are 11,000 full-time equivalent jobs. That's how the growth plan allocates employment, and how the region is allocated employment is full-time jobs.
Yes.
There was a question about transit. Just concerned about we don't have regional transit here, which is a good point.
And so one of the things that the region is looking at, and it's part of the designation of downtown Welland as a regional growth center, is that it be connected to the rest of the region. And so certainly that's going to have to be a consideration. There's going to be a large increase in population in the downtown. We need to think about how do people get there, or how do people get from there to where they work. They might not work all in Welland. They could work in other municipalities. So it's definitely an important thing to consider.
There's comments on intensification on industrial areas, David, and along transit routes. There's more comments, ensuring families can live together.
Yeah, so it's not all in the downtown, and the city's existing policies actually encourage intensification of brownfield sites. So these are former industrial lands. So that's still something there. And one of the things that we'll need to continue looking at is, where specifically along these other corridors, Niagara Street, for example, should this intensification be focused outside of the downtown? And what does that look like? That's one of the things that that we'll need to think about further.
There's a couple of comments on prioritizing development of brownfields and what's being done on brownfields. There's also a comment on we don't see much re-Indigenous peoples and reconciliation, which is a good comment considering tomorrow is Truth and Reconciliation Day and our new statutory holiday.
Yes.
There's also talk about long-term care facilities and rent geared income. All very good points that we need to address in the official plan.
That's right.
Is there any questions that people have? Lots of great comments, which these are very helpful to us.
Yes, and just so everyone knows, this chat that we have here is also being saved. So they're not going to be lost once we end this meeting. These are comments that are all on record here. Yeah, so if there's any other, is the survey ongoing or is there a time limit? Oh, that's I believe we had planned to have it going for a little bit longer. Nick and Rochelle? I think that we were thinking that it would go on for at least another week.
Yeah, it's still going.
Yeah.
It'll go on for a bit longer.
Yeah, so please feel free, tell your friends and your neighbors and your family to also, please feel free to enter in. The more feedback we receive, the, you know, that's what we do, that's what we want. Yeah, and infrastructure, that's another good point that was just brought up. You know, if we're gonna have higher densities, we need to make sure that the infrastructure system, so water, sewer, stormwater, can handle all that. And so that's definitely something that needs to be addressed in the OP. Very good point. Reclaiming old buildings, heritage buildings. Yeah. Lots of, definitely lots of those around, and even old industrial buildings in Welland as well. Yeah, great examples. Actually, I was just before this meeting, I went to get some dinner, and I walked past the, if any of you have seen, there's an old industrial building in that we're in the city of Toronto, and it's now the Museum of Contemporary Art. I don't remember what the factory was, but it's a great little conversion, and this whole area is changing. So it's really neat what you can do in old industrial buildings. And just on to answer the question, does the city have plans to address vehicle dominance? I believe you'll be seeing soon the city's transportation master plan that they're working on, which does address not just roads, but also transit and trails. So definitely that's going to be something that feeds into the official plan. So the city is definitely thinking about that and moving in that direction. And we haven't fully developed our stakeholder list yet, but I did see a question about, oh no, I lost it. Meeting with historical societies, and I think that's a great point, just to make sure that we capture different stakeholders, and definitely, you know, the business community, things like that. There's a question about selling land along the waterway rather than leaving it green for future generations. Good comment that we'll take back. Climate change is definitely a topic that is going to be discussed further, and there's lots. Climate change is such a big topic, and you know, we can talk about you know, the tree canopy targets, for example, or invasive species. But another way is low impact development measures. So, you know, in the development of our residential, commercial, industrial lands, we need to think about, okay, yes, you know, we will require some paving of areas, but there's ways to actually mitigate and even improve stormwater on a site through different measures, you know, having drainage swales, or making sure that, you know, it's not all paved and that you use permeable pavers, things like that. Definitely that can all go into policy. I just wanted to note, I see Gary has his hand up, and we do have a minute left, and maybe we'll just go wrap up with Gary. I think you wanted to, I'll unmute you if you wanted to ask your question or say your comments. You have the opportunity. I'm not sure if that's working now, Gary. If you, oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I don't know how to get my questions on chat
That's
out
okay.
to everyone. So
That's okay.
I typed them in, but I don't think they got out to anyone. I have a question about, will there be a moratorium put on woodland or forestry destruction so that all the damage isn't done before the forestry guidelines are adopted?
That, I'm not aware if the city has any plans on that. I know that, I don't know if the city has any comment on that. I don't believe that.
So Gary, at this point, the city works in conjunction with both the Conservation Authority and the region. And the region does have tree policies. So if these woodlands are identified as a woodland in the regional policies, then we work with the region to identify how and if they can be removed in terms of development.
It sounded like David suggested that it was going to get, it was going to be defined a little more tightly than just a woodland. And that would be my concern. Can individual owners go in and clear cut trees on their property while this forestry guideline is being developed over the next 6 months?
So, and it goes back to whether or not it's identified in the regional plan as a woodland. So we're still working closely with the regional staff as well as Conservation Authority staff. So even though the city doesn't have policies in place, that doesn't mean you're exempt from the regional or the NPCA requirements. So if you went in and clear cut a property that fell under the woodland policies or fell under the region or the NPCAs, there may still be consequences from either one of those two agencies.
And does that apply to anything that might have happened over the last year or 2 or 3, or is it just from some date in the future going forward?
I don't know if you're talking about a specific property, but I know that the region has recently upgraded their forestry policies, probably within the last year.
Okay.
And so those have changed, and I believe they're actually looking at another amendment to those soon. So it would depend on how and when.
Okay, thank you. And can you briefly tell me how I would get something out of my chat that I typed in and what I thought was chat to get to everybody else?
So I think you would just press enter.
So Gary, somebody already entered it for you, and we're recording this session. So what you've already said is being recorded. So we've got a record of it.
Okay,
Everything you said.
but this will help me for the future too. So all I had to do is hit enter and it would have gone.
It
Yes.
would have
Yeah.
gone.
That's okay.
Okay.
Now you know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, well, we're just past 7 o'clock, so I just wanted to thank everyone again for your participation tonight, and just reiterate that, you know, we're just starting the process here, and we are really looking forward to working with you and hearing more of your feedback and having more meetings like this as we go forward. And again, please tell whoever you can to fill out the survey and enjoy the mapping tool, and we'll we will continue. I'm just turning off my screen share so I can see everyone again. But yeah, we'll continue to work on this and keep you apprised of what work we're doing. And thanks, Paul and Nick and Rochelle and everyone, all of you. That I think it was a great conversation. I think it's amazing what we can do even in a virtual environment, even though we can't all be together. hopefully you found this useful session and a way to get your ideas across. So thanks, everyone.
Good night all.
Good night.